And welcome back, everybody, to Between Rounds here on Heavy.com. We're talking UFC 113, which is this Saturday, May the 8th, at the Bell Center in Montreal, Canada. We've had some fun times in Montreal. We've been there a few times. You know, it's a good town. Good to go back to Canada, right?
Great to go back to Canada. In Montreal, I've spent a big part of my fighting career up there, and I got a lot of fans, a lot of friends in Montreal. I can't wait to get back there and see them.
Dave met a lot of friends last time in Montreal, too, so you can say so.
I did, for sure.
When you go to Canada, you're going to meet a lot of friends. I mean, that's the Canadian people. That's the way it is there.
That's where they are. They're Canadian.
They're known for being nice?
Yeah, they're known for being too nice.
All right, so last segment, we wrapped up the Shogun Machida fight. Now we want to talk Josh Koscheck, Paul Daley, and, you know, the intriguing thing about this fight, of course, is if Koscheck wins, would Dana White want to now pair his next fight with John Fitch? So, Dave?
Well, I see it as it's either a #1 contender bout, so he either gets the title shot with a victory, or if not, he's definitely got to fight someone like a Fitch. He's got to be up there to get the #1 contender bout. But I really think at this point, this fight will be for who fights George St. Pierre next. I just don't see how else it could be anything else.
Well, Shawn, yeah, I mean, a #1 contender fight, I think maybe makes more sense than giving him the title shot right away.
Well,
again.
Yeah, I mean, and especially Dana White's been talking about it forever, about how it's time that fight camps are going to have to go against each other. Right. You know, so with the Koscheck versus Fitch, it's going to make a lot of sense if it's coming from Dana's talk. Now, my biggest thing is I don't think anybody should look past Paul Daley.
Well, that's what I was.
And I think, personally, I think it's a horrible matchup for Josh Koscheck. You know, I think
he's a strong guy.
I think he's a strong guy. He has great takedown defense. And let's face it, he's probably, I think, the most dynamic striker in the UFC.
Right.
If he puts his hands on Josh Koscheck, who has been knocked out before, he's knocking him out again.
Now, for Koscheck, why does it seem that he's abandoned his origins? Why does it seem that wrestling is just not even a factor of his game anymore when, especially in this fight, I think the only way he does have a chance of winning this fight is if he goes back to those roots and he sticks with the wrestling and he takes Daley off his feet, where Daley's most vulnerable.
Right. Well, I mean, if history proves itself, Josh Koscheck isn't going to do that, though. You know, and I think that Koscheck has kind of fallen into that idea, and he's even said it himself, that he's not necessarily chasing a title. He's more chasing big fights.
Right.
He loves MMA, he loves to fight, and he wants to beat guys at their own game.
Right.
Big mistake when it comes to Paul Daley. Paul Daley, anyways, I think, like I said before, has great takedown defense. Koscheck, don't get me wrong, is probably one of the best wrestlers in the UFC. Used to be, anyways.
Right.
We haven't seen it in a while. But Paul Daley, he could stop a takedown, and like I said, he puts his hands. If Josh wants to trade with him, bad guy to trade with. He's traded with great stand-up guys. I mean, I've seen him fight guys like Dwayne Ludwig, who's 10 times the striker that Josh Koscheck will ever be, and make him look like it was his first day in kickboxing.
Right. Well, since coming to the UFC, Paul Daley is 2-0 with 2 knockout wins over Dustin Hazlett, Martin Kampmann, 2, I mean, tough fighters at that. So Paul Daley, some may say, well, if this is a #1 contender bout, you're getting it kind of early. Well, maybe not. He's taken out the top competition, and this against Josh Koscheck, it makes sense.
Absolutely, it does. And we got to look at, you know, maybe in the UFC, we don't know a lot about him, but I mean, I've looked before. I think the kid's had close to 28 professional fights.
Absolutely.
And a lot of those fights were wins, a lot more than losses.
Exactly.
So,
Well, you know, for Daley coming into this fight with the hint of underdog, you know, to him, not many people are going to look to Daley to win this fight. Does Koscheck have enough in his camp to switch things around to prepare himself properly?
I think that Josh Koscheck, has that the options in his camp. Absolutely. Do I think he'll use them? No, I just don't see it. I don't see him changing up anything that he's done for the past 2 or 3 fights. He's going to be the same Koscheck we've seen, and if he wins, he's getting lucky. If he doesn't win, he's getting taught a lesson.
Well, I mean, that's the way it goes, right?
Absolutely. I think that for Koscheck, I mean, I think his biggest weakness is that mentality, is that confidence. No matter who he's fighting, is that he's going to beat them at their game. And it comes a point when you got to be professional. You got to do what it takes to win a fight if you want to continue to be successful in the UFC.
Right. Well, the next fight that the coach might know a little something about, Sam Stout. Favorite in Canada, of course. The last time in Montreal, the crowd went nuts. You guys were vaulted to like the co-main event practically, I think, on that one. How's it going?
I mean, camp has been great, and it's I've told people this all month. We're very fortunate that every camp for the last 3 we've been able to say was better than the last. Not too many people get to say that. We've been gifted with the new training center, training at the Tap Out Training Center in Las Vegas. We have a team of 24 fighters, some of the best in the world. And, you know, as always, I brought in some of the, you know, key guys that I think are going to make a difference in Sam's training to beat a guy like Jeremy Stephens, a guy that we've respected and wanted to fight for a really long time. We know he's tough. We know he bangs. And, you know, we asked for this fight, you know, and we thank the UFC for giving it to us. We're in Montreal, which is basically Sam Stout's hometown. And we're going to go out there and hopefully put on a clinic. And, you know, I know the fans want to see it. We don't like to look that far ahead. But fight of the night is always a great chance when you got a guy like Sam Stout in there. Absolutely.
Now, training Sam for this fight, you're fighting Jeremy Stephens, who he's a banger, like you said. And he's going to go out, and he's very much, he reminds me of like a Leonard Garcia. He goes out and he throws big bombs, big strikes, and he tries to knock you out with every punch. I mean, is the key to this, like you said, is it just to be more technical and to just pick him apart?
Well, I mean, that's going to be a big part of our game, being more technical than he is, using our range, our distance, and our movement. I think where people go wrong with Jeremy Stephens is they forget about the fact that he's not a bad wrestler.
Right.
And if you watch the Joe Lauzon fight, who we watched previously because we're preparing for him,
right,
if you watch it on the opposite side to look at Jeremy Stephens, he went for just as many submission attempts as Joe Lauzon did.
Right.
So, I mean, we're not overlooking that. We also know that he hits hard. Why? Because he's very strong.
Yeah.
And we have to keep that in mind. He is dangerous at all times. Jeremy Stephens believes in himself. And if history repeats itself, fighters that believe in themselves are dangerous fighters.
No, obviously everybody knows Vitor Belfort, coached here by Shawn Tompkins. Vitor's career is going well. You know, he's going to be coming back from the injury. But now you've got Sam, and every fight now for Sam is becoming bigger and bigger and bigger. You know, where does Sam see himself right now?
Well, we're not looking ahead too far. You know, people have been calling me, we've been talking to media all over the world. You know, is he going to be in the running? Is he going to be in that title contention? A guy like Sam Stout, we've never been in a rush with. And I think that's why we're in this good position right now. We slowly build him. He's young, he's exciting, and he's quickly learning the game of mixed martial arts.
Right.
He's not just a kickboxer anymore. And we need that with a guy like Sam. We're in no rush. The UFC loves him. He loves the UFC. And he's getting better and better every time. Jeremy Stephens is a good step. He's a good challenge. And we'll go from there.
Right. Right. No, I mean, it's going to be a great fight. I mean, I think so. Moving on, another Canadian, you know, is on this card. Patrick Cote, who, again, was battling a knee injury. Has he actually fought since then?
I don't think, no, he hasn't.
I don't believe he's fought.
This is his first fight,
yeah. And nearly a year and a half, I believe, for Patrick Cote. And you know, picking Alan Belcher, I mean, this could be a tough fight for him.
Absolutely. I mean, Alan Belcher surprised us with Dennis Kang.
Yeah.
You know, there was a fight that, you know, he was in over his head. You know, you've got a guy like Dennis Kang that came out of Japan, was submitting all the top submission artists out there. And Alan Belcher came out and he submitted Dennis Kang after completely controlling the entire fight.
I think that for Alan Belcher will be the place where he can win. We know both guys can stand and trade. We know both guys are very technical on their feet. But that X factor, I think, for Alan Belcher is he has the ability to go to the ground, and when he's on the ground, he knows what to do, and he can finish the fight. Right. And for Cote, that's what I'd be most worried about.
Yeah, I have to agree. I think Belcher, even in the stand-up game, I think has more to offer because he's a kickboxer.
Right.
Where Cote has shown us in the past, he's a heavy-hitted puncher with a little bit of anti-wrestling. And I think in this fight, I think that it's going to be Alan Belcher's night. It's going to be another step for Alan.
Really? So you're looking for Alan Belcher to come out on this one? Yep. Hometown crowd isn't going to sway Patrick Cote?
No, and I think Cote's been out of commission for a while.
Right.
You know, you're out that long. You've got a guy like Alan Belcher who's on a roll, coming off a huge fight, and showing us that he can do more.
Right. And it's not like they gave him, right. some of these guys that come off injury, they give them a tomato can or something to warm them up. They're throwing him right in the fire.
But they can't do that with Patrick Cote, because his last fight, even though he got hurt, was a title shot.
Right.
So, I mean, they can't throw him against a tomato can. They have to actually continue to test him. If he was worthy of that title shot, he's got to prove it by taking out big guys when he comes back.
Absolutely, 100%.
Sure. All right, there's one last fight that we've got to talk about that's on the pay-per-view card. And what fight would be complete without Kimbo Slice and Matt Mitrione? I mean, you're going to have to dissect this thing. I think the poor man would have to say, well, Mitrione probably has more skills going into this fight than Kimbo Slice.
Man, I look at it as they're very equal in this fight. What I saw from Mitrione from the Ultimate Fighter show was a guy that can take a hit. And maybe that comes from his days in the NFL, but I mean, it's going to take a lot to knock that guy out. And a guy like Kimbo Slice, he loves to throw those big shots. He has been tested. His chin in the past has been questionable. So for Kimbo, I think the key for him is to not get hit by a big shot, is to keep his hands up, definitely, and just do what he does, because eventually, with a guy like Mitrione, who seems pretty green in the sport, that could be the only way you're going to win, is just keeping it going.
I'm going to have to look at this fight as like, this fight, they finally put together a Kevin Ferguson, Kimbo Slice fight where we know it's going to be a stand-up fight.
Right.
First of all, he's fighting a guy, Matt Mitrione, who is much taller than him. Right. Taller guys don't shoot on shorter guys. Right. So he's not going to try to take the fight to the mat. So we're going to have that chance to actually see them come against each other and throw punches and kicks. Where I think the difference in, again, is that speed and that distance and that height that Matt has. And I think he's going to be able to use that long jab. I don't think he's going to be in a rush with a guy like Kimbo Slice. And I think he's going to pick him apart until Kimbo falls down. We've seen Kimbo go down to not probably the heaviest punch in the world. When he fought, what was it, Seth Petrozelli. So I think that Kimbo Slice is a huge draw. I think his time in the UFC will be extended because he is Kimbo Slice. But I think Matt Mitrione is going to have a chance to kind of bring himself into the limelight.
Does Matt Mitrione then have a chance to become a real UFC fighter?
I don't know if I'm sold on that, because I also saw some things in the show that maybe weren't that portraying of an elite athlete, I guess. And, especially when it came to his emotional side and his mind control, he seemed to have some weaknesses there. Mind you, it is the Ultimate Fighter TV show. And I've trained many of those guys, and you can't always believe everything you see on TV. So I don't know. It's going to take more than beating Kimbo Slice to sell me on him.
Right. All right, so UFC 113 in Montreal should be a very good fight card, a good pay-per-view. Everyone should run out and sign up and get it.
Don't miss it. I think it's pretty much sold out to go and see it live. So.
Yeah, I think all three in Montreal sold out within hours.
Those Canadian fans, man.
Exactly. So when we come back, Sam Stout will be with us. So we'll talk to him, see how the training was going, and we'll be right back on Between Rounds here for Heavy.com.